Yo, coming to you live from World Championship in San Jose. Welcome to the Living Legends podcast.
Tango.
I believe so.
Foxtrot.
I believe we are. Gucci Mango, yeah.
All right. How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of the Living Legends podcast, your weekly source for flesh and blood talkery. We are...
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts, Az from Go Again Gaming.
Hello, everybody. It's going to be a nice little episode today. We've got a few more spoilers to talk about. And obviously, this time next week, all the cards, pretty much, I think, will be spoiled. And I believe we have all got our... Well, no, of course, Kel's got his. It's already out there in the aether.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of us now have all got ours as well, I believe.
Yeah.
We got ours a couple days ago. Unfortunately, because Jim is actually going to be in Vegas coming up soon, and he's doing a bunch of prep work for that. We're actually not going to be able to do like a full-on video. We're just going to have to do a Twitter post, but we'll still be there. We'll still be able to participate. So
Nice.
Yeah, nice. I've done a strange video for mine, which actually ties into the Dungeons and Dragons thing and my character in that, because actually I don't want to say anything too much, really. So yeah, but people that are familiar with my channel branding and avatars and stuff that I've had done for my personal sort of avatar character in D&D might be able to deduce something from it. But yeah, I had fun with the video. It was good. It was good stuff. And so on the 24th, so Sunday for mine personally, at 9 p.m. British summer time. So for US, it will be in the afternoon sometime.
Yeah, it's like 1 o'clock for me, I think.
One-ish.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be go-karting on Sunday. It's my mate's birthday. So I'm not sure whether I'll be there when the premiere goes live, because I might be in a car driving. Can't obviously drive and be on the chat at the same time. It's not a great idea.
Sounds like a challenge.
Oh yeah, captured on GoPro as is death live. No, but yeah, we're obviously a weekend away. When you're listening to this, we're a couple of days away from the spoiler season kicking off. Whether that's watching it on videos or seeing the stuff pop up on Twitter, whatever it is going to be a good time. So
yeah, and then the third person you heard talking earlier is Bill. Hi,
that's
Bill.
right.
I'm here. I talked before my introduction.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, we are still going to be doing our preview card, but we're going to be doing just a Twitter reveal. Normally we do like a really cool video, but just with sort of the turnaround that we've had to do, it's a little bit tight in order to do the kind of video that we generally like to do. So we're still going to do a Twitter reveal. I'll probably start teasing some amount of stuff just around vaguely. I don't really have like a solid plan for what I want to do, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm still very excited. I think this is going to be a really good set. So
Yeah, me too. And so today's going to be pretty chill. We're just going to talk about all of the most exciting news in Flesh and Blood in the past week, which includes basically all 3 of the Bright Lights heroes have been spoiled. And with that, we can kind of get a glimpse at all 3 of the limited archetypes as well, which I think is really interesting. So we'll talk about that. Before that, we're going to talk about our week in Flesh and Blood. And then after all of this, we'll talk about the banned and suspended announcement and give you all our opinions on that. Or whether or not we have them some at all. So we'll see. We'll see. Because my opinions range from to like, oh, sweet. So let's do the week in Flesh and Blood first. I'll kick it off because I have things to say. Not a ton of things to say, but this past weekend we had the first major event here local to me in Portland, Oregon. We had the Battle Hardened Portland. I did not compete in any of like the competitive events, but the showrunner Travis did invite me over for the UPF event, so I participated in the UPF event. It was a ton of fun. Just solidifies that I think UPF is one of, if not my most favorite or enjoyable way to play Flesh and Blood. I had an absolute blast. I did not win, but I don't care. And I think that's one of the things that is telling of it being really fun and enjoyable is that I didn't win and I don't really care that I didn't win. I still had a lot of fun, and things happened. And OTK Viserai won, and he had like 30 something rune chance by the end of it.
Yeah.
And we had like 2 KO players. I got attacked for like 20 plus multiple times because I was sitting. By the way, I was sitting in between the OTK Viserai player and the KO player, so I'm like,
wow,
I'm in danger. And yes, I was
in danger.
I was in danger. Yeah, it's really fun. I really hope more people pick up Ultimate Pit Fight and give it a shot, especially with the round the table product from Tulare Community College collaboration. I think it's really good, and I think there's a huge potential for Ultimate Pit Fight to be potentially one of the more enjoyed formats in Flesh and Blood in the future. Just kind of like how I think it's just kind of like perhaps the way a lot of games go. So if you haven't tried it yet, I definitely give it a shot, especially if you're one of the folks who like you look at it and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be good at all. It's a lot of fun. It really is a lot of fun. And I honestly think it's a little bit different than more of a free-for-all because you can only attack the people to your left and right. But what that makes is it makes it so you have one guaranteed ally, right? The one person that you can't attack is kind of like your pocket ally. And if you can politic it well, you can make it so that they can attack one of the other people who is going to be attacking you. And still, there's a lot of like interplay and politicking in it. And I've seen like some naysayers are like, oh, you can only attack the people to the left and right, and it's bad because of that. I disagree. I think it adds more layers and it makes it so that you can strategize differently than like a commander type situation. So
yeah, I think it's actually quite interesting to be limited by only being able to attack to your left and right, because of exactly what you said. Like it helps to add an additional layer of sort of almost self-regulation to the format, where if you could attack anybody, then it would be a total free-for-all. It would be really chaotic. But having that even just little amount of guide rails allows you to like if somebody goes off to a really oppressive start, then like the players on the left and right will be able to focus on them, and then the other player, it gets to leave you alone so that you can sort of do your own thing as well. I don't know. It is actually pretty interesting. I'm not explaining it very well, but if you've played UPF, I think people will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think as well with the introduction of the bright lights and this round the table as well, I think a lot of things that I've seen about it that are negative is that there's no board state development. Now, what do these next sets do? They add that to the mix. They add a lot more board state development, and this constant, like Dromai, for instance, is an absolute menace in UPF, because if you don't deal with the dragon, she will run you over at the end because nothing can stop it. So I think that's one thing that needs to be added, which I think is going to be added to this. But also, it's still a very, very young format. So very much like how Commander started, it was just fans playing the game that then made the experience an actual thing, right? So there is still development for it to be taken into the hands of players and made even better than what it is now. Whether that's a rule that someone makes and forms a committee, and then it evolves from there. I think there's a piece in the article that said something along the lines of it's still in the hands of the players to decide what the best thing to do is for the situation or whatever. Because it's still very kitchen table-ish. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes for sure.
Yeah, I think the board state thing is actually positive, to be honest, because I played a lot of Commander, and Commander can get to the point where everyone is just at a giant gridlocked board stall because there's like a million permanents on the board, and you just have piles and piles of crap, and nothing happens, and the game takes like 2 hours, and that's like not where I want to be. That's not where I want to be at all. And at least in UPF, you can always just punch someone. Like that's like you just attack them, unless you play some weird like not attacking deck. But like you're never board wiped to nothing, and you're never like at a gridlock. You could always attack someone because it's Flesh and Blood. Like that's just kind of how the game works, which I think is really good. Very rarely do I have UPF games that are super long. They can go kind of long, but I think on average they're a little bit better than Commander, unless you're playing like CEDH, but that's different. That's different. And
I can confirm.
yeah, CEDH is a lot of fun actually. I like it quite a bit. But I'm also really a big fan of like Canadian Highlander and stuff too. So.
But yeah, I think it's fun. I think there still can be improvements to it. Like I think like a format like what's that Magic that Commander format where everyone has a different role to play, like Assassin, King, Guard. I think hidden roles. I think hidden roles in a FAB game, Ultimate Pit Fight would be sick. To be honest, like if someone's the king, someone's trying to kill the king, someone's trying to protect the king, but you don't know the people's roles in the game, so that also adds another element to it, right? Rather than just having the left and right thing, you could have hidden roles within the game as well, which is more board gamey. So I'd love to see if someone has an idea like Table Pit. You do loads of different sort of UPF variants that involve chilies and maybe a shoey one in the future. I'm happy to star. But
Ian and I,
but
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So just experiment with different ideas. What was you going to say?
So Ian and I have been playing with a lot of different ideas for multiplayer formats for a while. We just haven't had time to actually do them. There was one that was a like two-headed giant variant that we called tag team. So it was kind of like a tag team wrestling match where you can like tag in your partner. Then we also had another idea. This was my idea, and this was inspired by some Commander content creators, where there is a point system. And by that, I don't mean restricting cards in your deck. I mean that you have objectives, and completing those objectives gets you points, and the person with the most points wins. So it's not like who's the last person standing wins. Yeah, being the last person standing gives you a decent amount of points, but you could also be like second place or third place and still win overall because you did a bunch of the points. And the points would be crazy stuff like play 4 cards with the word tome in it, and we'll call it like the bookkeeper, or like, gain 10 life, or, whatever, save someone from dying, a bunch of different cool stuff that you could do where it encourages people to play in ways that they normally wouldn't play, and perhaps ways that aren't just being the spikiest thing possible. We wanted to make the format so like if you played the spikiest deck possible and you got killed everyone and got first place, but that's the only thing you did, then you would probably lose. That's what I wanted it to be. Like maybe playing the 4 books gets you 4 points, but being the last person standing only gets you 3 or something like that.
Stuff like that as well gives you an incentive to play a weird deck as well, because you're achieving these points that are based on you playing 4 books in a single turn, or play if you control 5 potions, you get X points or whatever.
Like if you have a potion, an amulet, talisman, and another thing, then you get a point or whatever, and you'll just call it
achievement unlocked, set up shop, and you're just there like behind your items, just chilling. I don't know why I'm trying to do this sort of Dalsim Street Fighter movement on the camera here, but
it's working for me. It's working for me.
That's for the visual viewers only. So get over to YouTube and watch it on Red Zone Rogue. Anyway,
do that. The last thing I just want to mention before we move on to something else is, because we're talking a lot about UPF, is the social play kit that's coming out soon. And so like it could be a format that you could actually play and get prizes for at your local LGS, which I think is really, really cool. So if it's something you're interested in, if all the absolute nonsense we've just been talking about interests you, you should ask your LGS, be like, hey, get some of these social play kits, and that way they can hold events, and then you can get cool prize support that includes like cold foil heroes, rainbow foil equipment, and play mats and all this kind of stuff. The current one is the Melody playmat, or the Melody kit, which includes a Melody playmat and cold foil hero and all this cool stuff. Just if that's interest to you, let y'all just know. And that includes, by the way, just all social play stuff. So not just UPF, commoner. There's the starter deck, like the sealed deck tournaments and all that kind of cool stuff. So I'll just leave that as my week in Flesh and Blood. I did a lot of other like content related stuff as well, but that's a little less interesting. So I'll toss it over to one of you guys if you got some stuff in your back pocket.
Bill's definitely got stuff in his back pocket. He's burned a hole in his back pocket, more like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I picked up some upgrades for just my collection in general. I now own a full CC playset of cold foil Genesis.
Yeah.
I also just picked up a cold foil Light of Soul, and then also finally Levia, the legendary Levia. I did not spring for the Marvel version. That's just too far off for me. So I just got the regular, but even the regular was like $50. So
are they still like really expensive? The Marvel ones, are they?
The Marvel ones, yeah. I think one of our local players was talking to me about it, and he got one that was decently priced at like Nats or something, maybe even slightly before that, and it was like 840 Canadian dollars.
I just have like a regular basic one.
Steve Argyle signed.
But it got signed by Steve, and then here's one of my 4 Light of Souls, but this is the cold foil one, which is cool.
Yeah. So now officially all 3 of us have cold foil Light of Souls.
Oh, so, no, sorry, I got rid of mine.
Oh, dang it. Just in time.
I think I may have told the story on the podcast already, but just in case I have not, I did basically sell it and then use the money that I got to get a Red in the Ledger playmat from Fluke and Box.
Oh, you did tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did have one. So all of us did acquire one at some point, but obviously I've traded it for something that I would prefer to have personally. Mm-hmm. But that's the great thing about the game. You can do that, right, with these pieces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But my week's been, I haven't really been doing much really. Obviously since we got the spoiler card, I've just been doing the video for that today, which took a little bit of time. Been messing around with more Azalea stuff on Talishar, looking at bringing memorial grounds back in place of spire sniping, because spire sniping at the end of the game just doesn't really do anything if you've used all of your good arrows. You play a spire sniping later on once it's come back round the second time, and you're digging for crap basically at that point because you've used it all. Whereas memorial grounds, you can get something back onto top of your deck, which is actually good, and dominate it. So I think it's doing better, even though it doesn't block. The yellow one's still quite good because it gets any arrow back out of your graveyard on top of your deck. So, been experimenting with memorial grounds again with all the latest Azalea tech. But yeah, we'll speak about a little bit more of that because obviously Bullseye Braces might be coming back. Well, it will be eventually.
Definitely be coming back. Probably sooner rather than later, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. But we can get into that when we get there, I guess.
Yeah, but before we do, unless you guys have anything else you want to go over before we pop up some heroic Tinker pals.
I think we can. Okay. I think we can pop up the heroic Tinker pals.
All right, sweet. So here we go. I want to talk about all 3 of them because I think it's really interesting to talk about all 3 of them together. So we'll talk about the 2 new ones first because they're the most exciting, and then we'll talk about Tech Levasan and kind of how they all gel together. And I think I want to just talk a little bit about the what we can maybe expect from Limited, because I'm really, really, really excited for Limited for this set. So first up, I have Dash Database, which was spoiled by Max Ferocity. And if you haven't seen the video, definitely go check it out. I do believe she will have another video showing some more stuff in the future, possibly the adult version of this Dash.io. And Dash Database is like really, really cool. I have opinions on this for Limited and Constructed, and they're a little bit different for each format. But overall, I think the hero is super, super cool. So for you audio only folks, I'll tell you what she does, just in case you don't know. So Dash Database, this is the young version. And today we're going to talk about just all of the young versions today. So she is a 4 intellect, 18 health hero. So she actually has less starting health. And we can assume that the adult version probably has the appropriate amount of less health, probably like 4 less health. Just kind of like how Prism, very similar to like Prism from Dusk Till Dawn. And then we have her abilities, which I think are super, super cool. The first ability is just awesome. It says, you may look at the top card of your deck anytime. And for players of other card games, this is an effect that is pretty well used in a lot of other card games, and it's one of my favorite effects, especially when coupled with the second effect, which kind of lets you play them. And it says, once per turn, you may play a mechanologist item with cost 0 or 1 from the top of your deck as though or an instant. It costs an additional 1 to play. So, a couple things to note here that I think are really cool. One is that it is once per turn, not once per your turn. It is once per every turn. So you can do that on your opponent's turn. And then if it's UPF, you can do it on another opponent's turn and then another opponent's turn, which I think is super cool. And then also, this is not a cost reduction. It's a cost addition, which, it's like this balancing thing. Obviously, it really feels like they feel like this is a really strong ability because, 1, they gave her less health, and then 2, they made it cost more.
Yeah.
And so... yeah, you can look at the top card of your deck anytime. And if it's a mech item, specifically has to be a mech item with cost 0 or 1, you can play it as an instant. It'll cost either 1 or 2.
It's just the instant part, really, isn't it? That's just ridiculous, because you could essentially, if you've got the right cards on top, if you've either put them there through opt or whatever, or if you just happen to have them on top, you can play them at instant speed, so they don't require an action point, so you can just keep going. All the items, well, most of the items don't have go again on them, do they? You have to play them at the end.
Yeah, I don't think any of them do. I think they're all just...
We'll talk about that when we get to the next hero, because some of them might in this set.
Yeah, but if you're playing them with dash, they won't have go again, will they?
Well, we don't know. We don't know what other items that they're going to print with crank. So there might be a 0 or 1 cost item that has crank that dash can play with, and then play and then get an action point.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the balancing part is it's only once per turn, so you can only do this once on your turn. So if you have an item and then you have another item, you can't play them both, right? You can only do one. But on your opponent's turn, you can do another one. It'll be difficult though because you drop at the end of your turn, so you will, if you have another item, you'll have drawn it, so you'll have to make sure that you have another one on top. The other downside, obviously, is their items, and as of this recording, every single item we've seen in the entire game has a block of 0. So if you're running a lot of items in your deck, well, it's going to be hard to block, and you're already at like less health than your opponent, so it's kind of like a razor's edge kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the ability that lets you look at the top card of your deck. So it does help you set up for boosts if you want to be like a more boost-oriented thing. So you can be like, hey, the top card's a generic or whatever, so I don't want to boost. So, I don't know. It's interesting. What do you guys think of Dash database just in general?
I think she has the potential to be quite good. I know that there's a huge opportunity cost to running a bunch of items exactly for the reasons that you said. The other thing that kind of is unfortunate about these is, or about this ability specifically, and I definitely think it's on purpose, is that it can't get Teclo Pounder, or it can't play Teclo Pounder off the top of your deck. Which is great, honestly. Like, please don't give that ability to be able to set up a Teclo Pounder on your opponent's turn. Like, that would be way too strong. But being able to play things and set up your board as an instant, I think is really cool. I think that she, depending on what items we get access to, could be quite strong. Like, if there's another thing that's in the same vein as Construct Nitromechanoid, then, if there's something that needs X amount of items in play or whatever, I think that Dash is going to absolutely be the deck for that. I don't think that there's even very much of a question about it. Even if you're paying 1 to like draw a card and play it, I still think that that's pretty solid. Although with that being said, the fact that I mentioned specifically Construct Nitromechanoid, we do have the other hero, which I won't allude to quite yet, but I will say probably the better hero for Construct Nitromechanoid. Probably the hero for Construct Nitromechanoid.
You gotta feel it. They were like made for it, kind of,
Yeah, okay. So it's even in the name, Max Nitro. That's MAXX Nitro. is the other mechanologist hero that we're seeing. So it's Teklevossen, -IO, -database, and Max Nitro are the 4 heroes that we're getting in this set.
Well, we don't know if -IO might just be the adult version of -database.
Oh, this is true. Yeah. We do have the name of it. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So yeah, we know for a fact we have the 3. And Max is the 3rd.
Yeah, and I will note that it's very likely this is all we're getting because we have seen armory kits and they just have these 3 heroes as the things. So
yeah. But yeah, Max is super cool. Reminds me aesthetically a lot of Echo from League of Legends.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Big fan of that. Also big fan of the ability. The ability is really interesting. So Max Nitro is a 4 intellect, 20 health mechanologist hero, young. We don't have the adult version yet, but we will see. Has a once per turn action for 2 resources. Create a hyperdriver token with 2 steam counters. Activate this ability only if you've boosted this turn.
Yep.
And then the ability does not have go again. But there is another line of text. Hyperdrivers you control get crank. And what crank is, it's actually kind of crazy. As this enters the arena, you may remove a steam counter from it. If you do, gain an action point.
Yep.
So in a way, the ability does not have go again. But also it kind of has go again if you want it to.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, people are kind of theory crafting. Like, there's a way to get like 3 or 4 action points with Max. You can, because it stacks with go again. Because it is giving you an action point and not specifically go again. So that I think that's quite interesting as well. If you needed 4 action points in Mechanologist for some reason.
I mean, you have oh crap, what's the name of the card? The card that gives you an action point every time you boost. That and then also draws you a card.
Yeah, High Octane.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably pretty good with Max, to be honest. I think Max is super interesting. I think they've learned their lesson with Voltaire and Luminaris, because this is only a once per turn to get the hyperdriver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you can play more hyperdrivers to get the action points and stuff, but the way hyperdriver works is hyperdriver itself is an item that starts in play with, I can't remember with the base version if it's 2 or 3.
Red gives you 3, then
okay.
Yellow is 2, blue is 1.
Okay, yeah. But the trigger on hyperdriver is not a May. It's whenever you boost, remove a counter from hyperdriver, and then you get a resource. So Max is a hero that you can't really stack a lot of the tokens, because in order to make the token, you have to boost. And if you're boosting, then you have to remove counters from hyperdriver. So you can't really just use this to stack a bunch of hyperdrivers and just have a massive turn with a bunch of resources. You have a limit on the number of hyperdrivers that you can make from Max's ability, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's just kind of like smart design. And I didn't mention this when we were talking about Dash. I do want to go back to Dash in a minute, but I think Max is the hero that I want to play most in Limited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, and he's probably going to be the easiest one to play in Limited, to be honest, as well. You just boost. Like, he's the boost matters hero. Each hero, by the way, I think alludes to archetypes, like I mentioned. Max Nitro is definitely the boost matters hero. And then Dash Database is definitely the item matters hero, where she's like, hey, I want a lot of items in my deck. And then Max is like, hey, I want a lot of boost in my deck. And I think those allude to the 3 different archetypes in Bright Lights, with the 3rd one being Teklevossen, who cares about Evos. And so you'll have your Evo deck, you'll have your boost deck, and then you'll have your item deck. And I'm sure there's a lot of overlap between them all. Yeah. What do you think about?
So how does this want to play then? Is it just like I boost maybe a few times and then create a hyperdriver, and then I get more of a spiky turn next turn because I have more resources to use, or you could then go
the thing that I really like about it, it's like just theoretically, but if you actually play the physical hyperdrivers, each of them gets go again. So you could play 3 hyperdrivers in a single turn if you wanted to.
That's true. Yeah, for sure.
And so that it just helps you set up for mechanoids so easy. It's really cool.
Yeah. So if you want to do the Nitro Mechanoid thing, definitely Max Nitro is where
Mhm.
where it's at. I'm very curious to see if my Nitro Mechanoid will get a reprint in this set. It probably won't if I had to guess, but it'd be really cool to get it in this set so you can do it in limited. Like that would be super sick to do like a do that in limited, because you do have a full set of token mech equipment in bright lights, because you have the prototype pieces, which we've already seen are token. And so that means you could just start the game with all 4 of them, which means you do have all 4 mech pieces. So all you need is the hyperdrivers.
But you can only do at the moment, at least, you can only assemble the mech once, and that's it, because you've sacrificed all your equipments, unless there's something that allows you to put more equipments back on again afterwards.
Correct.
Yeah, so you can only do it once. So is that payoff worth it for just doing it once? I think if you do it in Blitz, you're like smashing someone's face in, and
yeah.
Like
the amount of value that you get from it, even though for the 3 hyperdrivers, if not all of them are real hyperdrivers, if like some of them are tokens or whatever, which I assume you're going to be doing at least 1 token hyperdriver, at least in Max. That does, each one that you sort of cheat on, like each one that isn't a real hyperdriver, does mean -1 attack that you're able to do. But yeah, like in Blitz, you get it out and you're attacking for like 30 instead of 40.
So that's not true, actually. But the -1 attack thing, Joshua Scott said that they're going to adjust the rules to make it work.
Oh, the tokens count?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, yeah, then this card's crazy.
Yeah. So the tokens will count.
You're attacking for 40.
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And then you're blocking for a lot as well.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah, so I think Max in like constructed is probably going to be like a hyperdriver. I mean, not hyperdriver, but like a nitro mechanoid kind of thing. I mean, it's in his name, right? Max Nitro, Nitro Mechanoid. Yeah.
True.
Max
that's an oversight. Yeah, completely, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think Max is pretty cool. And I think it'll be like nuts in Blitz. In CC, I don't know, but I think in Blitz, I think it'll be kind of like insane. Like assembling Nitro Mechanoid in Blitz is like kind of game over, right? Like,
yeah, especially again with theoretically, I haven't done the math, but with this, like I feel like you can get it done pretty quickly. You just play like 9 of hyperdrivers, because why not? Like they all have go again.
Yeah,
technically.
Yeah.
I guess the blue ones are potentially worse. Do you sack them as soon as they have no counters, or do you have to wait until, is it start of turn?
I'm not sure if the blue ones are that much of a liability. Well, maybe. I was going to say, because
I mean, they're also just a blue.
Well, yeah, because Max's effect, you have to pay 2 to even do it. So it's like you could always just pay 2, like pitch your blue one to make a token that has 2 instead of the.
Yeah, and then you still have a resource.
Yeah.
The blue ones just turn into yellow ones essentially that are also an extra resource.
Yeah. Important.
I think
to note,
you just played. I think you. Well, it wouldn't be 9 of, because this was talking about Blitz, but you play 6 of them.
Yeah. And we haven't seen Max's weapon either. So like,
true.
That might help with all this stuff as well. And I'm sure that we're going to get more equipment as well. Maybe a headpiece, maybe some boots that both synergize with Nitro Mechanoid, because we already have like the gloves that do, and chest piece. So, yeah, I don't know. Max is super cool. I think he's the one I'm looking forward to playing most in limited. I think Dash is going to be really fun in constructed. I do want to mention for Dash in particular, I want to talk about the art for Dash. Well, first of all, the artist Sam Yang, beautiful artwork. But I think there are a bunch of like potentially really interesting lore implications for this, because it is Dash. First of all, the card name is Dash Database, which is pretty sus to begin with. But also in the artwork, she's basically standing next to what I believe to be Datadol. And I believe this because you can kind of see the metallic body on it. You can see part of her like metallic face, because you have like the kind of like the human illusion. But she also has like this little swoopy hair thing that Datadol has, like robotic swoopy hair. I'm pretty sure that's Datadol. And a lot of folks, or at least some folks, were like, oh, does this confirm that Dash is actually an android? And I was like, maybe, but to me, what this looks like is the Wraith equivalent of like net running. Like this looks to me like Dash is like net running into the database and communing with Datadol in like the Wraith version of like the net.
So there is a matrix in metrics, isn't there?
So yeah, that's my guess. What's going on here? I think it's super interesting, and I really, really want to see the lore on this. Yeah. So
but if you look on the key art for Bright Lights, there's a sign that says Matrix Entrance. So there is some sort of matrix or some sort of, there could potentially be some form of digital world or digital thing that you can go into or access. So that's an interesting theory as well.
Yeah, and I can't tell in the art for Dash. She has like this long thing coming out of the back of her head, and I can't tell if it's just her rat tail that's super long and thin, or if she actually has a cord being plugged into the back of her head. Yeah.
I have to assume that that's an intentional thing, that it looks ambiguous.
Yep. Sam, I see you.
Sam, you've done it again.
Hopefully we'll have Sam on the podcast.
Intrigue.
Yeah, he's agreed to be on the podcast still, and he said he wanted to wait until Bright Light spoilers were done. So we'll be able to ask him about all this stuff, and we'll see. And then I do want to mention Max Nitro's art as well. I love the two characters in the background. There's like a white-haired like street samurai guy, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
that's when it made me realize, and they posted on Twitter about this. I was like, Bright Lights isn't Cyberpunk. It's Shadowrun.
Yeah.
They have like street samurai, and I can just see people like using magic and like having, like, I just want to see a brute. I want to see one of the brutes from the Savage Lands in Metrics wearing a bunch of like techno garbage, right?
That would be funny.
And he just has like a gun or something.
Just going back to Max as well, briefly, there are a few cards that were absolutely overlooked because of the fact that they were Hyperdriver Matters cards, which were in Dynasty, and all Dynasty. So they were all Dynasty cards which cared about hyperdrivers. So you got Crankshaft, which is obviously a card that has crank in its name, Blessing of Ingenuity, and Jumpstart, which are all cards that care about hyperdrivers. So they could actually see play now as well. So they're always worth looking at. Like Crankshaft, for instance, so when Crankshaft is banished to pay a boost cost, put a steam counter on a hyperdriver you control, and it's a boost attack. And there's another one called Blessing of Ingenuity as well, which says at the start of your turn, destroy it and then put up to 3 hyperdrivers from your graveyard and or banish zone into the arena for the red one.
I'm going to make a theory right now.
Yeah.
One or both of those cards are going to get reprinted in this set for drafting.
Could be. Yeah.
I think Blessing of Ingenuity is like a pretty slam dunk effect to have. When you have a character that cares so much about hyperdrivers that they literally create hyperdrivers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Jumpstart as well is another one that's cost reduction. It says if you control a hyperdriver, it costs 1 less, and it's a two cost attack for 5, 4, or 3.
That sounds like a draft. 3. Sounds like a draft card to me, man. Like,
so, yeah. Got a lot of cards there which care about hyperdrivers already, which are already there. So
I actually kind of think with such a big set, we're gonna get more reprints than usual in this set. Like I think we're gonna get reprints of some of the key Met cards that were only ever in like History Pack or Arcane Rising. Like I think we'll get like 0 to 60 and that kind of stuff. And so instead of printing another 0 cost boost card, I think they're just gonna reprint them for limited play, right? Because we already have like T-Bone and 0 to 60. We don't need another 0 cost boost cards. So you can run like 1 billion of them in your CC deck.
Well, here's a spicy one for the viewers. I've got a 0 cost boost card. There we go.
Here's another spicy
all the
one
information. Oh wait,
I got 2 cards.
Ooh.
Oh baby, the 0 cost boosters.
All right. Okay. Here's the other thing, and this is going to be the thing where I don't know. but these guys might know. So the other thing that I'm really, by the way, we'll talk about Tyquaius in just a second. But the other thing that I'm really curious on Bright Lights is up till now we have never gotten a non-attack boost card, nor basically we've never gotten boost on anything but attack actions. Every boost card in the entire game are only on attack actions, and so I'm really curious if they're going to break the mold here, and if we're going to get a non-attack or a reaction with boost, because I think that would be super cool to have like an attack reaction with boost. So you can like attack react, and then if you get the boost, then you get like an additional effect. So those are like two things that I'm very, very looking forward to seeing for Bright Lights, like either D-react, attack react, or non-attack with boost on it. So.
Well, it's so hard to not say anything, even though we're live, even though I know a few things. But yeah, we're only a few days away from the thing. We're only a few days away. But new keywords. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I've seen people on Twitter being like, "Oh, my card has a new keyword." Like, Breezy said that too. So it's like cat's out of the bag, I suppose.
Pretty much.
So. I want to talk about Tyquaius before we move on to the other thing, because I think Tyquaius really completes the picture. When you're looking at Bright Lights as a whole, I think you really need to pay attention to Dash, Tyquaius, and Max Ferocity. Or not Max Ferocity, Max Nitro.
Well,
slip of the tongue.
It's all the same.
So Tyquaius, I think, is also super interesting, and I think is the other hero that I'm really, really looking forward to playing with, especially since I have already played with the Professor Tyquaius from the Round the Table product, and the only thing I'll say is that it's super fun, and so that just makes me really want to play with this Tyquaius as well, which is different. So this Tyquaius, 4 intellect, 20 health, and it says you may play Evos from your banish zone, which smells a lot like Chain. And it says once per turn instant for 3 resources, you may play your next Evo this turn as though it were an instant. When you do, draw a card. So that seems pretty good. The fact that it costs 3 to play, though, and I've seen a lot of the Evos that we've seen. So I think the only ones we've seen are the ones from the Round the Table product, and then that weird headpiece. I think they're all really expensive. I think most of them cost like 4 to play. So in order to play this at instant speed, you'll need 7 resources. You'll have 3 to activate this ability, and then 4 to actually play the thing. But it draws you a card. So like, I don't know. That's pretty cool. I do want to note now that I've just read Tyquaius, that all 3 of the mech heroes are able to play stuff, not necessarily instant speed, but they're able to gain resources or to cheat the one play point per turn, right? Because Dash Database lets you play them at instant speed from the top of your deck. Max Nitro gives your Hyperdriver's Crank, which gives you action points, and then Tyquaius lets you play Evos at instant speed, and then also gives you a card. So all 3 of the heroes kind of like cheat the fundamental rules of Flesh and Blood, like the one play point thing, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's going to be any equipment or anything for the new heroes. There probably will be, but if you look at the chest that's already available for Mechanologist and the Teklo Foundry Heart, that is also good for these heroes. That, well, especially Teklo Vossen, because he can play things from his banish zone. And what does Teklo Foundry Heart do? Pay 1, banish the top 2 cards of your deck, gain a resource for each mech card you banish. Activate it only if you've boosted this turn, however, but still pretty synergistic with regards to what you want to do and how you can access cards anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think this all paints a pretty clear picture of what like the limited environment's going to be, right? So you're going to have these 3 heroes to choose from, and they're very clear what they want to do, right? So Tyquaius is like, hey, I want to play Evos. Max is like, hey, I want to play Hyperdrivers and boost stuff. And then Dash is like, hey, I want items. Tyquaius also likely wants a lot of boost stuff as well, because like I said, there's probably a lot of crossover between these, because when you boost your Evos, then you can play them from Banish. So
I'm excited to see some of the other like high rarity Evos as well, because so far we've seen just the headpiece, the majestic headpiece, and we also, as far as I know, haven't even seen the entirety of the card. There is like a barcoded out section of the effect So
I wonder if it has to do with
yeah.
this mysterious keyword that people are alluding to.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. Very intrigued to see what that means. What that's going to be. If there's going to be like a legendary Evo.
Oh,
What
there's
that
gotta
even
be.
does.
Oh, there's
like,
gotta be. There's gotta be a
hell yeah.
couple, right? Like the fact that it's an all mech set. I'm super curious to see what they do with the legendaries, right? Like they can't just make like 5 mech legendaries, right? They have to make to make like a
and there's like
generic
a
or
lot
something.
of them. There's like I'm pretty sure like 8 legendaries in this set. I think
I wonder if that includes. That's a good point. I wonder if that includes the 3 from the expansion slot. Because there were 3 in the expansion slot, and the expansion slot cards do have the serial number the same as like the rest of the set, right? So it feels like they're part. It feels like they're part of the set.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, we've already seen 3 legendaries in that part, haven't we? So
yep. So I mean that's still 5 though, right? Like even if they are included, that's still 5 other legendaries. So I don't know. Maybe this is the finale of the set. We'll see the generic boots. Or like
it'll just be Crown of Providence, but sandals of Providence.
Yeah.
Well, no, it'll be like super Snapdragon scalers, right?
Yeah.
Because boots tend to like give go again on things, so it'll probably be some shenanigans to give go again. Yeah.
It'll just be give all of your attacks this turn go again for free, and also draw a card.
The Luminaris treatment.
Yeah.
Everything you have has go again, just cause you just sneezed yellow, and now everything has go again.
Oh, lovely.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm very curious to know what you, our dear audience, thinks about these Bright Lights heroes. Personally, I'm really excited for them, and I think it makes Limited look super fun. I think just on paper, and by on paper I mean like just at a first glance, I think Teklevossen and Max Nitro look the most playable from a Limited standpoint, and I think Dash is really tricky. Not only does she have less life than the others, but she wants you to play cards that don't block. And in Limited, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to pull that off in a really cohesive way, or maybe you'll just have a pile of cards that don't block and then you just die because you have less health. Max is just nitroing all over your face.
Well, that sounded dirty. Wow, she's nitroing all over your face. Anyway, I think we are waiting for new cards to come out which make items playable in a limited format because they don't block. So
we'll see.
Maybe that's too Insider Baseball.
We'll see what they got going on. So yeah, I mean they have a large set to go through. There's likely going to be a lot of equipment. One of the things that I'm very curious on are like equipment that augment other things.
Yes,
like items and like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. I want to play a lot of this, and I imagine I am going to play a lot of this, probably on my channel. I think just streams of like Crack Shuffle play streams just sound like a lot of fun. Where you you get so much play out of just a single booster box, right? Like you can play with a different deck every time for an entire stream, like just with one box, which seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Rather than just busting it open and being sad that you didn't pull like the one card that you wanted or whatever. You just play with the cards. So yeah, that's that. Unless you guys have any other things you want to say about Bright Lights or these 3 heroes in particular, we can move on to the banned and suspended announcement.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting news that I think aligns a lot with kind of what people were asking for. Which, by the way, not to bury the lead as much for this sort of thing, they did announce that they've changed Bullseye Bracers from being banned outright to being suspended until Lexi is gone. So pretty significant, honestly.
I swear
it aligns with their messaging, though.
I swear I mentioned this in that discussion we were having about like banned stuff. I was like, they could just make it so it's just like banned until Lexi hits LL, and well,
Yeah.
here we are.
They did also kind of say that they were keeping an eye on that as a possibility anyway.
Yep.
I think they were like, we'll kind of check in again at the next banned and restricted, or banned and suspended rather.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think that it's the correct call, just kind of objectively, like personally at least, because I don't know, it wasn't really that bad in Azalea, but it was that bad in Lexi because you were already able to do like 3 arrow turns pretty easily, and it just made it 4 arrows instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it just, I think LSS specifically, like, you know, the devs have learned that, hey, just stapling go again onto all your crap makes stuff like really busted. All of the heroes, not all of them, but a lot of the heroes that are super, super busted, it's just they have go again stapled onto all their crap. So it's like Chain, Prism, specifically Luminaris, Lexi, Voltaire. Like a lot of the problems in Flesh and Blood stem from, hey, breaking one of the core tenets of the game, and that's like you have one action point. And there's you know, most of the time you have to jump through some hoops to get the go again, but nah. If all your crap has go again, it's kind of good.
Yeah, especially in Ranger when their attacks are a lot more detrimental if they hit you. So being able to access multiple instances of that is a tough one. And we've discussed at length that Tales of Aria was just a bit of a shit show with regards to power level, because it was just so high.
Dromai players are going to be like, what, me? When I say, hey, I think Dromai is also a problem that we should be kind of keeping an eye on as well. Like just being able to play a single red card and give all your crap go again. It's there's a reason that Dromai is like considered to be one of the best heroes in the game currently, and a lot of people think that she might be the best after Lexi leaves. And I think giving all your crap go again is possibly one of the reasons. And all your crap just being on the field at all times, you know, makes it pretty good.
It is very strong.
I feel like that plays into certain strategies like Ninja. That I think Ninja will see a resurgence when everything else goes, because they can just go extensively wide and clear the dragons and still leak damage. So I think Ninjas might come back a bit quite significantly if that is the case. Which then opens up things like Azalea, because she preys upon aggro and all this. So it's good. It's good in the sense that it's going to self-correct again when those heroes go out. But it's clear that obviously the design team now is curbing the hero power level rather than allowing them to have ridiculous things. There's still power cards there, obviously, but there's not. You know, Voltaire was just insanely broken in the context of 3 of a kind and Bullseye being able to get all of these cards into your hand. You know, not you blocking with your entire hand and then playing 1 3 of a kind out of your arsenal and having a hand again and still being able to fire 3 arrows is just madness. Some of those lines that you can get. So yeah, it's nice to see that the Bullseye is going to be coming back to Riptides and Azaleas that were punished as a result of Lexi's sins. There was a whole tweet I did on that, which got some spice, I might add. People agree, people disagree, but it was a good discussion nonetheless, and it is a question that I put forward to Flake to ask Brian about on the podcast, on his Instant Speed podcast. So hopefully that gets asked there. But yeah, good stuff to see Bullseye back in general.
I think all in all, it's a positive change.
Yeah, definitely.
I played Lexi in Blitz, so none of this affects me. None of this did affect me, and none of it currently affects me because she's still legal in Blitz, and Bullseye was never banned in Blitz. So it's just like, yeah, sure. My deck doesn't change at all. So because I play for those listening who don't exactly know, I play Uzuri in CC, and I play Lexi in Blitz. So yeah, I'm fine. Like. So I am happy for all of the Azalea players, and I guess like the 2 Riptide players out there who get their Bullseye bracers back. No, shout out to the the squad of
Shout out.
Riptide players.
Shout out David Mink.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the two.
Yeah.
The other person is DM Armada. No, I'm just having fun.
No, I don't know that you're that far off.
Hey, I love a hero that a lot of people would consider on the same power level as Riptide, which is Arachne. So, hey, I think we can all like poke fun at each other, and then be rest assured that we're not the problem.
That's me though. But if you look at those heroes in comparison to what has been done in the past, it's just like we know we're on the right path now going forward with what's being designed with regards to power level, I think.
Yeah, I think, like, not to derail it too much, but I kind of alluded to this when we're talking about the Bright Lights heroes. I think they may have learned their lesson and they're trying another attempt at heroes that kind of circumvent the one action point thing. Because like I said, all three of them have some way to get around it. Like you have instant speed items from the top of the deck, the hyperdrive or crank stuff, or the evos. But what I think one of the big differences is they're all very specific in like what they do, rather than just like all your crap has go again or whatever. Other than the action point from but it's only from hyperdrivers, so it's not just from any item. It's just only from hyperdrivers. So
yeah, it's a much more measured. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure we'll see other items that have crank as well.
I expect a lot of them. Also, Briar obviously hit Living Legend, and for those of you who aren't up to date on it, she will no longer be legal for play for Classic Constructed as of Friday, September 22nd, which is this coming Friday. So 2 days from the posting of this video. And
that has the additional repercussion of no more Rosetta Thorn in CC.
Get out of here. Baby.
Just at all. It is gone.
Yep. So you're gonna go dust off your Nebula blades and your Reaping blades.
Yeah. It's it took a while, but I think people are gonna notice very, very soon. It's going to be extremely noticeable that whenever you sit down across from a rune blade, you don't have to worry about, well, they don't have that much arcane damage, but they have the Rosetta Thorn, so I need 2 pieces of arcane barrier in case the game goes late, but it sucks because then I can't play this piece of equipment. Yeah, you just don't have to worry about that anymore. It is just, they can do arcane damage in basically like instances of 1 at a time.
Yep.
2 and 2 is gone. Like,
2 and 2
we never have to do that again.
Here. Oh man, like
maybe people will realize that Nebula Blades is actually really sweet because it attacks for 4 and then gives you a rune chant if it hits.
But the thing is, it didn't have a chance to breathe at all because Rosetta Thorn was just so crazy.
Well, I mean, once Aria came out, it was like, shove all this crap to the side. We're playing Rosetta Thorn. Yeah.
I remember actually very specifically being sad when I was putting together my UPF Starvo deck, because I was like, well, I don't want it to be just like a Starvo deck. So I don't want to play Titan's Fist because it isn't that. Like, I'm not trying to make it just this is Starvo, but in UPF. So I was like, I don't want to play Winter's Wail. So I was like, yeah, I'll just play Titan's Fist, because I don't want it to be that. And then I was looking at Titan's Fist and I was looking at Winter's Wail. I'm like, Winter's Wail is literally just always an activated Titan's Fist baseline.
Yeah.
Like, there is no reason to play Titan's Fist, even if I'm not pitching ice cards. It is just better. There's no consideration there.
The reason is if you're playing Bravo instead of Starvo. That's the reason.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it it's an ice weapon, is it?
It is ice.
It is elemental guardian.
An elemental guardian weapon. But But yeah, like that's just the craziest part of. I mean, it's very indicative of Tales of Aria as a set. That just there are so many cards that were printed that were just like 2 or 3 notches above what they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then there were also cards like Ice Storm, which makes me sad because I love that card and it is
Sweet.
not playable.
There's a lot of like sweet cards like that just no one ever played because they're not as busted as the other crap in this set. That I think if the set was toned down, that could be probably pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, there was a couple of those. There was a couple of those, weren't there? There was like the Ice Storm. What was the other one? Like Flash Freeze. And other weird hybrid cards that you could use.
Exposed to the Elements was one, but I think that actually did see some amount of play.
Yeah,
because it killed Crown of Seeds in the mirror match.
Yeah, I think it did. What a stupid card. They're both stupid cards, to be honest.
Another stupid card. Yeah.
Well, remember, this is going to trigger people who were around during the time and mean hopefully nothing to those who were spared. But remember Awakening? Remember that card?
Oh, I love Awakening. That was like one of my top picks for the set. It took a little while for people to come around to it. Actually, it basically took until Starvo, and people were like, "Oh, this card's like busted," and I was like, "I know, right?" It just lets
I think
you tutor. It's good.
Wasn't our very, very first interaction, Bill, was playing Oldhim versus Azalea. Do you remember that? I recorded it, but I didn't never saw the light of day.
I think so. Yeah.
I think I remember reaching out to you.
I was mentioning it to Kel. I was like, "Oh, I decided to play Oldhim," and he was basically like, "Bleh."
Yeah, because I played a few Awakenings that game as well. It's just absolutely vile. Yeah. Or was it you playing Oldhim? I can't remember. It was definitely Oldhim versus Azalea, and I think you might have been playing Azalea then.
Oh, maybe I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though.
Because I remember I remember opening one pack of Tales of Aria, and I got a Winter's Wail and a Heart of Ice in the same pack, and I was like, right, I guess I'm playing Oldhim then, and then I decided to build an Oldhim deck. That was very short lived, but just a memory.
As we know now.
Yeah, God. Anyway, Tales of Aria, what a
dirty Oldhim players here.
Dirty old man.
I'm surrounded by foes.
Yeah.
I'm beset on all sides by evil men.
Yeah. I do want to mention. So getting back a little bit on track. So Blitz, technically no changes, but they do mention a couple things, which I think is interesting. They note that Chain, Kasai, and Kano appear to be distancing themselves as the forerunners of the format, and I think anyone who plays Blitz kind of is like, duh. Chain is like, he's still Chain. Chain's disgusting, and now he has more things. Yeah.
Chain is still a gross deck. Like, it does so much for so little. During one of our skirmishes, the one that I ended up getting to top table at, I played against 3 Icelanders and ended up losing to one of them that I beat in the rematch at the top table. But one of the Icelanders that I played, I won because I presented 20 damage on turn 1.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up 20, and it wasn't even like hard. Like, wow. It was pretty lucky, the stuff that I got, but it wasn't difficult. It was just attack you with 3 buffed attacks and then also Rosetta Thorn.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Jeez.
Chain.
Yeah.
If people, you know what?
Chain.
If you're listening to this and you don't have any experience playing against Chain, and you're one of the people who's just constantly complaining about Lexi, go play against Chain, and you'll get a little bit of a perspective on what true power is, right? Like, Chain is absolutely disgusting. Definitely one of the best heroes they ever printed. I think there's an argument between like Chain and Starvo, and I think it's like I think it's like way closer than people would think. Like,
well, especially like full power Chain. Like initially with like something that we mentioned, I think it was even last week, about like we were talking about tech cards, and I mentioned that Snag when I first started was like a $35 or $40 card, and it is now a bulk Majestic from Crew because it specifically countered Chain, but also subset more specifically countered Rift Bind, a singular attack from that deck. People were willing to spend $40 to counter that one attack.
You
One
just died.
card.
You just died a Riftbind. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically what Chain used to do is he could block really, really effectively. He had his Husk, and then once you got to late game, he could just summon Urser and then still like punch you with all the crap that he has in his banish zone. And if that's if you survive all the crap he's thrown out, because like while he's doing this, he's still attacking you with a bunch of stuff. Like Chain's pretty good. And Chain is still legal in Blitz, so if you want to be degenerate, hey, go play Chain in Blitz.
I love playing Chain in Blitz because it's very powerful. But like, can you imagine back in the day? This is it's a very formative tournament for me, so I know I reference it a lot, and I'm sure listeners of the podcast have heard me say specifically. What was it? Pro Tour Las Vegas?
Here Bill goes again.
Yeah, about Tyler Horsepool playing
Vegas.
Prism. Yeah, the Calling Vegas. Tyler Horsepool playing against Chain. And basically the only reason that Tyler Horsepool ended up winning, he played the match extremely well, but he attacked one time and then full blocked for the rest of the game.
Yep.
And then just eventually fatigued Chain. And that was it.
Yep.
Like there's a lot more nuance to that. I'm not trying to like boil it down to that's all you needed to do to beat Chain. He was very not favored. Like Chain was like everybody expected Chain to win. Yeah. So yeah, it was super cool. But that also speaks to like imagine that matchup if Chain had access to Rosetta Thorn already, because it was before Tales of Aria.
Yeah.
Like, that I don't think Tyler Horsepool could have won that. Like full power Chain with Rosetta Thorn, I think is just too much.
If I remember right, it was like
personally.
it was pretty close too. Like it wasn't like
it was very close.
It wasn't like a runaway. So yeah, Rosetta would have definitely leaked some damage here or there, and we'll see what Living Legend. I do want to build a deck for the Living Legend format going into Worlds, because they said they're going to do like a little like Living Legend event, and I do want to build either a full power Chain. Probably Chain. I don't really want to do Starvo, so I'm probably just going to do like a full Chain. I'm not sure if it's going to be Duskblade Chain or if it's going to be Rosetta. We'll probably just run both and then pick based on your matchup.
Yeah, just depending on the matchup. I would probably bring Duskblade in against like Oldhim.
That thing's going to get huge.
That sounds so fun, doesn't it? Just literally just. There's no ban list, is there, in Living Legend? Nope. And you can play any hero still? You can play any hero?
I think it's everything, I think, is what James was saying.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Azalea,
so you can play what I was just referring to, full power Chain with Seeds of Agony and Rosetta Thorn. That deck sounds stupid.
I think I'm going to do that. I think it'll be fun. I think if you guys are down for it, we should all build Living Legends decks for Worlds, so the Living Legends podcast can play in the first Living Legends event.
Hold on a minute. That's an opportunity, isn't it?
Wait a second. That's actually a really good idea.
Let's do it. I think I want to play Chain.
Do I have to play something that's Living Legended though?
No, you can play Azalea if you want.
Brilliant.
But then just know that you're going to go against the Chain Starvos and Prisms with Luminaris.
Yeah, if Kel calls Chain, then I think I'm gonna call Starvo.
I mean,
because I can play a really, really pimped version of Starvo.
I do have a full cold foil set of equipment for Chain. Like I have cold foil Grasp, and I can do cold foil. Husk, and
Oh, I actually really want to do that.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
I do have a cold foil Duskblade. I don't think I have a cold foil Rosetta Thorn, which are probably pretty cheap these days. I should look into getting one of those.
Yeah, I don't think they're expensive.
Well,
but yeah, I'll build fully powered, fully pimped Starvo. That would be very fun.
Hell yeah. Okay, getting back to the BNS. There's a couple of things.
Getting back to the BS.
Exactly. There's a couple things that I want to mention. So, in addition to them noticing that Chain, Kasai, and Kano is also disgusting in Blitz, they did say, and this is something that I really want to point out, Bright Lights is a set we expect to have a particularly large impact on the Blitz format. So, like I was saying, I think Max Nitro is probably like disgusting as hell. I think he's gonna be like, here's my stupid Nitro suit. I'm just gonna smack you for 1 million damage and block for forever. Yeah. I think they're alluding to Max. I can maybe see the other two, but Max seems the most obvious to me.
Yeah, I think just the prospect of getting like an early, even if it's like turn 3 or 4 nitromechanoid, I think that's just so strong. Like,
can you do it
if you're able to do it with any amount of frequency or consistency, I think it's just crazy. Personally,
I don't have the math and stuff in my head for this, but dear listeners, comment: can Max do it turn 1? Can he assemble the nitromechanoid turn 1 if you get like a god hand? Let us know in the comments. I actually don't know if you can.
Because you would get +1 resource from.
Because you can you can play it
from heart.
Crank, play it, crank. How many do you need? Do you need 4 or is it 5?
3.
You only need 3 nitromechanoid, or you only need 3?
You only need 3 hyperdrivers for nitromechanoid.
You can't do it turn 1 then, I don't think. You could do it maybe
I think it's
turn 2.
Yeah, I think it's too many, unless you were able to draw a card some way.
So you start with a 4-card hand.
Okay, so you play I forgot the name of the card again already. The one that gives you action points whenever you boost and you draw a card.
Oh, high octane. Yeah.
So you start with a high octane, and then you boost enough where you can Toma Fiendel into a bunch of hyperdrivers, and then hyperdriver, because they all have go again from the crank, and then you play the nitromechanoid. So that would technically work.
I mean, that sounds right.
Yeah.
You just need Toma Fiendels. But that draws 4 cards off of 2 resources. So that's technically turning 2 cards into 4.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Okay. Well, anyway. So yeah.
Kind of getting in the weeds.
Just flesh and blood algebra session.
Just important to note that the LSS fully expects like bright lights to be very strong in Blitz. Didn't mention it, I don't think, for CC, but in Blitz they're like, yo, this is going to be nuts, which we'll see.
Well, yeah, and just getting more access to boost cards, I think, is going to be just extremely impactful in Blitz.
Yeah.
Because there already is like a critical mass of boost cards in Blitz anyway, but getting access to like better ones is going to be like just increasing the overall quality of them can make a really, really big difference.
Yeah. There's 2 more things on the BNS that I want to mention. One of them is that Living Legend points are being increased by basically double for certain events. Specifically, they're increasing ProQuest, RTN, and PTI events to 4 points per event win. And then they're also and points available at skirmishes to 2 per event win. So I think that's going from 2 to 4, and then from 1 to 2 for each respective event. And I think this is pretty interesting. And I think it is. I think this is something that some people might have differing opinions on, but I think it's cool because it keeps the format fresh and it allows heroes that are problematic to LL faster. And it also makes these like lower stake events have a little bit higher stakes, which I think is cool. So I think it's a cool thing, just overall. I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure if you guys have any opinions on the LL point changing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I think it's naturally going to need to evolve over time because of the injection of many heroes. Like we're getting 3 in this set. Who knows what's going to be the next one? There's just going to become a point where there's too many heroes. So I think they need to accelerate something in order to get those ones that identify themselves as the meta deck to rotate faster. So it keeps it fresh, like you said. Because it is a eternal format essentially, because your heroes never go away until they living legend. So that process will need to speed up as more and more heroes get introduced. So I would expect it to ramp up even more so as time goes on if there isn't many changes happening. So
yeah,
it's just something you have to get with.
That's just a necessary part for a system like Living Legend, where it was based around what the game looked like at the time. And it kind of has like these two axes of interaction almost, where there was only like X number of tournaments being played where heroes were able to top and you were able to get points from that. There are now infinitely more tournaments from like when the system was initially implemented.
Yeah.
And there's also, like, as said, infinitely more heroes. So it's like, if a hero does top an event, it should probably be substantial in some ways, because like if a hero ends up being the top deck and like it gets played at every single tournament in a season and it wins every single tournament in a season, that's probably not a mistake. Like, that is probably like the hero is very strong. It is stronger than all of the other heroes that were printed. It should make sense that, like, if you do that well, obviously that doesn't like realistically happen, but just as an argument, if something like that happens, it should result in a pretty substantial leap towards Living Legend, as a way to sort of self-balance the format. So,
and we've discussed,
do you think it just makes sense?
Yeah, exactly. And we've discussed on the podcast before, like even giving points for people that are consistently top 8ing events as well to speed it up. Because if the same deck is appearing at top 8 and just can't convert or whatever for whatever reason, but there's still a consistent presence, you can still argue that that is still a meta deck that's maybe causing issues or becoming a stale format or whatever. And as a counterpoint to that as well, with regards to heroes that reach Living Legend, there is going to be a Living Legend format, so it's just going to recycle itself all the time, because you know you're still going to get into Living Legend. What happens when Oldhim is dominating the Living Legend format? Maybe you're going to go into Living Legend format.
Nope.
He goes into Dead Legend.
He goes into Dead Legend.
That's a really cool name for a lot
Dead
of things.
Legend. Yeah. Just filled with all the ash of burnt Oldhim cards.
I think Living Legend format is just supposed to be like the Wild West. I think you're just supposed to, it's like vintage.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be crazy.
The dumping grounds.
And it can just be, that's what I mean, it can still be a place. If Living Legend format is successful, it probably will just exist in this casual space, I imagine. But it's still a place where you could go to play your heroes that have Living Legended or whatever.
Yeah. I do think that, at least theoretically, it does have the ability to be like a popular format. It's being able to do powerful stuff with the most powerful cards that were ever printed. Like, there's a reason why there were 2 old style Magic the Gathering formats that were just objectively like as popular as they could have possibly been. There was just a huge barrier of entry, specifically Vintage and Legacy.
Oh, I love Legacy. Legacy is
for the people who play them, they're so like, it's such a good format. They're really, really cool. The only thing is that printing cards and power creep and whatever has really started to impact those, which makes them feel much different. And the cost of entry is like a house, like actually literally the cost of a house sometimes.
It's a little bit,
So yeah, like being able to play powerful cards is still something that people want to do.
Does that sort of format is that attractive to like pro players though, or is it more casual players that, well, I guess maybe not if it costs that much, but
people who have money?
What sort of, is that the only people that play that format though, is it, or could play, like who's it for essentially?
Like, not necessarily. There are a decent amount of people that I am aware of that play Legacy, who play Legacy specifically because it's reminiscent of how Magic used to be. So it's like it's sort of nostalgic for the times that you played before there was that much balance in the game.
Janky power, basically.
Yeah, like whether or not that's good or bad, people like to play with their old cards. It does attract a lot of very like competitive people, I think, naturally, because the cards are so much more powerful. Especially when it ends up being something like, I think, like Legacy and current Flesh and Blood, or I guess Legacy and Living Legends, are actually pretty well intertwined, because as new cards get printed, they immediately go right into the Living Legends format. So it's different from something like for Yu-Gi-Oh! The GOAT format, which is just like up to when Scapegoat was a regular card, or like in Magic 93-94, which is just the first year that it was released, and it is exactly only old cards. Like, it's still a format that can evolve as new stuff gets printed. And I think that probably pushes it a little bit closer towards competitive, because then there are people trying to say, well, there's this new card that breaks this old card, so I'm going to do that in this Living Legends format.
Yeah.
Because I can play stuff like Seeds of Agony or Awakening to like support that and make it even stronger.
Yeah. Makes sense. You could even proxy cards as well, right? For Legacy, you could proxy card. You
can proxy whatever the hell you want anytime you want. Whether or not it's going to be legal for the tournament is a whole other question.
I can't remember whether I saw something that said you could proxy cards.
Officially, in official Magic tournaments, you cannot use proxies at all. Period.
Mm-hmm.
There are many other ones. Sure, Bill. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
There were some tournaments that would be played like non-officially, like non-sanctioned. Mm-hmm. There was a local store that did, I believe it was 15 proxy Legacy. So you could proxy cards, but you could only proxy a maximum of 15. Yeah. Which is kind of a weird like half step measure. I do get it, but like at the same time, if you're already proxying, then whatever. But yeah, I ended up playing in that, and especially for like non-sanctioned stuff, I think it's good. But also, I think in terms of just barrier of entry in general for Flesh and Blood, the Living Legends format, I don't think is going to have that much of a barrier of entry.
It's like
it's the same as regular Flesh and Blood.
It might be cheaper actually, because like some fancy cards like I said, like Cold War Rosetta Thorn, like who the hell wants that now? Like UPF players and Legend players. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like the thing is, you don't have to buy the pimp versions of all the cards just to play the Living Legends format. Like the non-foil versions of all of the pulses, if you wanted to play Starvo, they're like a couple dollars each. Starvo himself is like a couple dollars.
Probably less than that if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, probably less. Like I'm pretty sure you could buy a full Starvo deck outside of maybe the equipment. I think Crown of Seeds is still maybe expensive. It'll probably drop again though, because Briar just got banned. So there's there aren't any CC heroes that can play Crown of Seeds, period.
You can only play Crown of Seeds competitively in Briar Blitz, I think.
Briar Blitz. That's the only place. That's the only one. So Crown of Seeds might not even be expensive anymore. It like maybe through the equipment costs you maybe a maximum of $200 if I'm being like on the upper end. But yeah, for the rest of the cards in the deck, I really don't think that Living Legend Starvo is expensive to build. If you're doing like lowest rarity, whatever, I really think that it would be relatively cheap.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
to build like the most powerful deck in recent memory, at least.
So there's a couple exciting things just kind of baked into the Living Legend points things that we were sort of talking about. And that is basically kind of harkens to what Az said, and that there's going to be a lot more heroes. And LSS specifically lays out in this announcement, if you haven't read it, that they are happy to confirm that almost all of their sets going forward will offer limited format gameplay. In addition to that the hero roster is set to expand significantly over the next 12 months. So Flesh and Blood fans, we're going to have a lot more heroes in the next 12 months, and that's likely directly because of more limited environment sets, which means we're going to have a lot more, new heroes in draft sets is what this is telling me. It means we're probably going to have less sets like Outsiders that had like reprint heroes in the limited set, and they're probably just going to be brand new heroes.
Do you think they'll be specifically uniquely young heroes, or do you reckon they will do the same amount for CC as well?
Probably both.
Probably both. Yeah.
Because this is this is specifically under the increased Living Legend points section. So I would assume that since most people talk about CC and Living Legend points, they're probably going to do both. I expect, like, for Bright Lights, I expect there to be 3 new adult heroes and 3 new young heroes.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to talk about is pretty simple, but it's just something that I want to mention, especially for folks who like these formats like I do, and that's Ultimate Pit Fight and Commoner. And basically what they're doing is they're normalizing deck construction between all Blitz-like formats. So it says, in order to better align with the Blitz format, the Commoner and UPF are tied to. Deck construction rules for both of these formats will change as follows, effective from today. And it's basically the new Blitz rules. So you have 1 young hero, a 52 card pool that includes weapons, equipment, inventory, etc., and cards in the main deck. And then you start with exactly 40 cards in your main deck with up to 2 copies of each unique card. And that's basically the exact same as the Blitz rules. So you just have a 52 card pool that it can include all of your stuff, right? So technically a 53 card pool, including your hero. And I just like them normalizing this across all of the Blitz stuff. It just makes it a lot easier. So, yeah, cool change. This is something that I literally mentioned at the UPF event that I was at a couple days ago. I was like, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if they, just adjust the UPF deck construction rules, since we are having more UPF stuff coming out, especially with the Round the Table product dropping soon, very soon.
Yeah. Were they 53 card decks as well? Were they 1 hero, 52 cards?
I am not allowed to say.
Oh, okay, yeah.
unless it says already in the thing, in which whatever it says on the thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I have had people ask me, they're like, how many of those, what is it called, braveries? Because Bravant, the Guardian, is like, you can have any number of braveries in your deck. And one of the first things I did was like, give me that deck. I want to see how many bravery, and I literally counted to see how many were in the deck.
Nice.
So I know how many are in the deck, but same thing for a lot of the other ones. I'm like, give me that deck. I want to see like how many like Majestics, and if they put duplicates of Majestics and all this kind of stuff. Once again, I'm not able to say, but
you will not disclose that information here today. But it's very, very soon. It's coming right around the corner. 9 days away, I think. 8 days away from about a week or so when you're listening to this. But it's nice that they're consolidating all those formats together. So if you're bringing your Blitz deck to a tournament, you can then hop into the Ultimate Pit Fight and play with the same deck. You don't have to make any changes or anything. So that makes it a lot easier for people to do that, basically.
Yeah. It's probably not like optimal or whatever, but you can do it. Sure.
You can do it. Yeah.
I think the idea, at least for me, of just like planning on going to an event and just bringing the Round the Table product and just having it sleeved up as is, and just being like, hey, does anybody want to play some UPF? And just having a product made is like so cool. Like I'm really excited for that specifically. I think that's just a really great option to have. And I definitely see myself doing it at least one time in my life.
I really love the product, and I'm looking forward to playing it. So, yeah.
Definitely.
It's really cool. Anyway, so with all that said, I think that wraps up our BNS discussion, unless you guys have anything else to say, and then we can go to Arsenal Step and wrap this show up.
I think
sounds good.
I think we're good to start winding down.
Sweet. Well, we've talked a lot about. I have a small, minuscule Arsenal Step, and that's just like, I've been playing a lot of other card game stuff recently. I have the Ascent Houston for Grand Archive coming up at the end of this month that I'm going to be competing in. And then other than that, I've just been like, kind of, it's hard to say. I don't want to say I'm like getting back into Magic. I kind of am, but it's like, I talked about this in another video, and I talked about this in other places, but it's different. I'm not like playing Standard. I'm not playing Modern. I'm not playing any of that stuff. But what I am doing is I bought a bunch of draft boxes, so I can have like drafts with like friends when I have people over. And so now I have a bunch of draft boxes that I bought. Also, they're cheaper than all the other crap that they have. And I'm just like, I have them specifically for draft. And then I have been like messing around with like building a Canadian Highlander deck, as well as like some new commander decks. If anyone knows Magic and knows Commander, there's like a couple commander decks that I want to build. There's like 4, but the one that I'm like really doing right now, other than like this fairies one, is there's a card. They did a Street Fighter crossover thing, and then they made like in-universe versions of those characters. So I am making the Chun-Li deck, but the in-universe version of Chun-Li. And basically what she is she's kind of like a cool spell slinger where she copies things. So you basically exile instants from your graveyard, and then when she attacks, she copies them and you can cast them. And so it's like this cool like spell slinger attacky kind of thing. And
what colors is it, that one?
It's Azorius. I was gonna say Esper, but yeah, it's blue white.
Yeah.
And so when you attack, you can be like, oh, I cast Pongify and Swords and Brainstorm and all this other crap. And then I'm running, my finishers are the 2 towers. So I'm running the Aetherflux Reservoir, as well as the, what is it called? It's like a lightning tower that deals damage every time you cast a spell in the turn.
Oh, yeah, the storm one.
Yeah. So
I can't
those
think
are
of what its name is right now.
Those are my main win cons. I haven't built the deck yet. I have like a pile of 250 cards that I need to whittle down. But I also put Brain Freeze in my, so I could also like Storm kill Brain Freeze someone if I do it. You basically can do cool stuff like Turnabout, because Turnabout is an instant, so you can like play all your crap and then like Turnabout to untap all your lands and then do it all again. Anyway, so that's
something I do want to note for people who are not familiar with Magic but are familiar with Street Fighter. The non-in-universe version of Chun-Li is extremely flavorful because the ability that she has is called multi-kicker.
She has multi-kicker. Oh no, and you put kick counters on the things that you oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. I love that. The fact that they gave her that's what Magic was building to this whole time. I'm convinced. They created kicker all the way back in the day, and they're like, Chun-Li, baby.
Chun-Li.
It's so great. It's one of those things, like, since I'm kind of tangentially getting back into it, I'm like back capping, going back and looking at all the stuff that I missed. And I'm like, this Chun-Li thing is like sweet. Like, and I typically go for like, black decks. One of my favorite decks is like Mervyn. I'm just like, this blue-white deck seems cool. So I'm doing that. And I have a lot of really fancy cards to make it look awesome. So my deck's going to be all cool and awesome and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. Just other card game stuff.
That's a funny thing though about Magic is obviously because of its extensive history. You can just type in random card on Scryfall, and then it gives you something that you've never seen before, even though you've been following it for the last 20 years or whatever. It's just crazy how they can still spew out cards that you've never heard of.
Almost 30 for me. It's. I won't talk too much more about Magic, but I recently did like a top 5 TCGs video where I just talk about the top 5 games that I'm currently playing, and then I showcase a deck from each of them because, hey, I just want to show decks, and also I think it gives credence to the fact that I'm actually playing these games, that I really like them, and it's not just some random person being like, oh, these are these 5 games that I sort of know about. But anyway, I talk about the Magic part, and that Magic is, to me, like the essence of Magic is the legacy of trading card games, because it is like it is the first trading card game. It's the progenitor, and so it's a game where you can literally just do whatever the hell you want. It's been out for so long. There are so many cards. It is just like you can just do whatever. Like they literally have like tens of thousands of cards that like it can just be whatever you want. So that I think is Magic's biggest strength. Is that, yeah, you could probably do that with like Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh is like you got to read it. You got to read an essay every single time you look at the card.
Yeah, kind of.
I do really want to build a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but every time I like sort of take a couple steps, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do
CBA.
This. I have a Pokemon deck. I have a Gym Leader Challenge Pokemon deck, but when I try to get into like Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm like, maybe I'll have my one Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I'm just like, the closest I've gotten is when Bill mentioned that weird format that he plays. That's the closest I've gotten to build a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. And
Edison.
And I couldn't find an Edison deck that I really liked all that much, but maybe I didn't look hard enough. I don't know.
Elliot and I actually, for my arsenal, Elliot and I went to there was a local regionals, like a Yu-Gi-Oh regionals that happened this weekend, this past weekend, and there was a side event for Edison specifically. And long story short, Elliot and I ended up winning way more games than we anticipated, and then fought against each other in the finals.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
And
Oh wow!
It was just like, we could have just played at home. We didn't have to drive all the way. It was like downtown. It was in like the convention center.
Did you win anything at least? Did you get any cool swag? Yugi swag?
There was only one prize, but it was like a cool exclusive mat for like the type of tournament that it was. The side event is specifically called like a Time Wizard, like sort of like throwback retro format sort of deal. So yeah, he got a mat for that, but otherwise it was just us kind of having fun playing with the local Edison peeps.
Nice.
So yeah, that was fun. And then the other thing that I'm very excited about right now, I bought myself a little handheld emulator that looks like a Game Boy.
That's a little Game Boy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's called the Anbernic RG35XX, and I've been playing ROM hacks of Pokemon Fire Red. It's very fun. I'm having a great time.
Clearly, Bill already owns copies of Fire Red, so this is totally legal.
I own
dear
every
person
single
who's listening.
I own every single Nintendo console and every single Pokemon game. Let me have this.
I'm like, I actually like legit believe that you have all that. So yeah.
And no, I'm not saying to you, let me have this, because I know that you're fine with it. Just anybody who would have an issue with that, I do own all the games.
Yeah,
please.
And just for the record as well, Living Legends podcast, Az from Goarin Gaming has now just purchased a Fire Red that he doesn't intend to play, just for Bill's sake.
Just bought it on eBay.
Just bought it on eBay. Yeah,
I love it. He's just so Az is just such a bro.
Yeah,
such an absolute mensch.
Oh, it's so good. Az, do you have anything in your arsenal? Just packing it in.
Yeah, I've been packing some recently. That's for sure. Whether I can talk about it on the podcast is another thing entirely. Anyway, so yeah, I've been writing a campaign for Dungeons and Dragons that I'm going to be running with a few people. And one of the books that I got for it was Spelljammer.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah. So traveling the astral sea. So it's quite a dimension hopping, lots of portals that take you to different places and stuff, and loads of lore and stuff that I've made behind the reasons why for that. So I thought getting the Spelljammer books was a good place to start, because obviously it's a lot of astral sea stuff going on, a lot of ethereal creatures and stuff. So
I really hope this is the one that you invited me to join, because now I'm actually I'm even more excited because I can love Spelljammer, dude, and I've not got to play it in like a very long time. So yeah.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much aspects of it I'm going to use, but I thought it was a necessary pickup because of the fact that it's dimension hopping situations, and there's going to be ships and stuff in it as well, like spaceships and that, which are within the realms of fantasy, of course. But yeah, writing an actual campaign homebrew is very taxing. And a lot of work needs to go into it. I've wrote 28 pages so far.
Did you watch that Chris Perkins video that I shared in the other chat?
I did, yeah.
Okay, sweet. I was like, because he literally just gives tips for being a DM, and Chris Perkins is like the actual goat. He's like,
yeah. I'm actually watching a few of his videos, because it's just on the Dungeons and Dragons channel, isn't it? Loads of like how to do this, how to do that, top 10 tips or whatever.
Chris Perkins wrote like most of the books, right? So it's like, he's the guy. Yeah,
exactly. So doing a lot of prep for that. There's already a weird character being played. We've got a Furbolg druid character who is an astral drifter, which again is in the astral adventurers guide. So again, it gave me the thing to the sort of reasoning to pick it up. So there's loads of other things in there. I mean, I can go into all of this for God knows how long. So I've got 28 pages of it, but yeah, something that I've been doing recently, which has taken up a lot of time. And another series on my channel before we translate into socials. Another new series on my channel is called Great Mail Day, which is basically just inviting someone on. Well, I've got a regular guest. His name's Seb from the Netherlands. He's just an avid collector, collects everything, which is just us describing and showing off what we got in the mail each week, which can range from trading cards to games to board games, tabletop stuff, about every week or so. And just showing that off, really, because we just love collecting random geeky things, you know? I mean, it's just like to speak about it. Rather than just speaking about the same thing every single time, it's nice to mix it up a bit.
I'm always buying new crap. Hey, check it out. I got One Piece now.
Yeah, exactly. I got a Shadow First deck the other day and showed that off as well. And even though I got my ass whipped five games in a row by Pascal, kicked my ass.
Can't wait to play more Shadowverse Evolve, dude. At the end of this month, the new set comes out, and I'm so stoked. I already pre-ordered a case, and it's just going to be awesome, nerdy, weeby goodness at the end of the month, because it's like Shadowverse Evolve comes out, and then I'm going to the Ascent Houston to play Grand Archive, and then when I get back, I believe Bright Lights is out, because I think I leave on Bright Lights pre-release weekend, and so I come back, and then Bright Lights will be out. So lots of card games.
But yeah, just want to speak about more things going forward. So I thought that was a good idea. But anyway, yeah. So should we just do socials now and then close it off?
Probably. I do want to ask you questions after the show. I have questions about your D&D thing, but I'm sure the people don't care all that much.
No, yeah, exactly.
So that's the show, everyone. Thank you for being here and listening to our random crap. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the pretty thorough segment, the whole flesh and blood stuff. We were pretty on track, at least for this part.
Yeah,
it only devolved into chaos for the Arsenal step.
There was a couple of. Sorry, I was going to say there was a couple of side steps in the flesh and blood scene, like Living Legends and all this, and we discussed a load of things there as well. So that's all good. Hey, what was you going to say, Bill?
Oh, I was just gonna say, our set list, our itinerary was only 5 things long, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, that'll be great. I'm actually pretty tired. Meanwhile, 2 hours later,
2 hours later, still going. It's just what happens on this podcast. At
least the tangents were like flesh and blood related tangents, and not
they were fleshed out, weren't they? Yeah, they were fleshed out.
Yeah,
they were fleshed out,
but they weren't 30 minutes of Baldur's Gate tangent kind of thing.
That's true. Yeah. But at least we know we can do that. You know, that's the thing. I don't think. I'm pretty sure we're the only podcast that release an episode every week without fail, which is flesh and blood related every single week.
I don't know.
I could be wrong. But
we're pretty consistent.
We're pretty consistent, and we can just chat about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood Trading Card Game is the tagline, right?
And at this point, most other games too,
and most other games as well.
Sometimes, but I mean, a lot of people in the card game world. There are people who play only one card game, but I know there's a lot of people, who also kind of dabble here and there. Sometimes you get burned out. Sometimes you just want to check out something new. I bought these. I'm not planning to mainline One Piece, but I want to play it just a little bit because everyone says it's really fun. So I'm just bought the starter decks, and they were pretty cheap. There's only $15 for both of them, so it's just sure, give it a shot. So anyway,
exactly.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's just reel it in. So yeah, I've been Az from Go Again Gaming. Find me on Go Again Gaming AZ on Twitter and Go Again Gaming on YouTube. And that's pretty much it, really. Yeah.
And I've been Kel from Red Zone Rogue. I guess it's a weird way. I don't know. Red Zone Rogue everywhere. And you can find me and talk about card games and whatnot. I love card games, and mostly Flesh and Blood is what I talk about, but a lot of other stuff too. So, and then we also have Bill. Bill.
I'm Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on socials at BillTSF. You can also find me on YouTube at Spike Feeders FAB. We do live edited gameplay content, and if that's something that interests you, you should definitely check it out. We are very likely going to be doing UPF content with the new Around the Table product when it comes out. So keep an eye out for that, because I think that'll be something that will kind of be like filling a niche, and that seems to be just what the Spike Feeders MO is, filling niches. So
yeah, that'll be good fun to see.
Yeah, so looking forward to that already. Also, just as one last thing for everybody, let's go around, or I guess not Kel, because you've already done it, but yeah, my spoiler card or the Spike Feeder spoiler card is getting revealed. I don't know what the specific time is going to be, but it will be this Friday the 22nd. And
okay.
I guess, like I had already kind of alluded to, it is cards. I got 2. So
Which
that's good.
On which Twitter should they follow? Is it on the Spike Feeders Twitter or your Twitter or?
It depends on, I don't remember if I still have access to the Spike Feeders Twitter. I feel like I do, but I'm not sure what the password is off the top of my head. So I might just be posting them directly and then get somebody who's already logged in to retweet it from the Spike Feeders Twitter. Or it might come from the Spike Feeders Twitter. Just follow both, just to be safe.
Follow both. Yeah.
It can't be too safe.
Yeah. They do it before Elon Musk charges you to use Twitter.
Oh my God, I just heard about that today. But
what?
That's for another time. But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and have a great rest of your days.
Go.
Yeah.
Az has a spoiler too. You should watch it.
Oh, right.
No, I don't. No, it's garbage.
All right, I got so offended by Kel mentioning Elon Musk and all.
Elon Musk, you're like, close
Shut
it
it
off,
down.
Shut it down.
It's all over.
But I think, I think we already mentioned it to a certain degree earlier on, but yeah, I'll reiterate it again. So mine's on Sunday, and that is 9 p.m. BST, which is UK time. So for mainly American audience, which is basically a lot of it, is afternoon.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock Pacific, so it's like, adjust accordingly.
Afternoon across
wherever you are.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool one, and I had fun with it, and it's in tandem with the avatar of my D&D character, which you may or not have seen, but if you haven't seen, you definitely should. That's it, really.
Yeah, go watch our D&D thing. It's super cool.
Yeah, there's going to be more to come as well. So
it's going to be even cooler, actually. Kale was like, hey, the other one was like pretty grounded in reality and gritty, and this one's going to be like nuts. So
absolutely nuts, which is going to include my spoiler card. Anyway, let's cut the podcast there.
Bye everyone.
See ya.